So a pretty massive YouTuber with 1.2 million subscribers by the name of Brandon Buckingham is currently being accused of doxing. Now, this is all following on the roots of the Turkey Tom allegations. If you haven't been following those, I've made a few videos. And Turkey Tom also put out his own video addressing these allegations where these two women came out to basically accuse him of some of the worst, most heinous things that a man or a human can do. And it ended up all being false. Tom had all the receipts and whatnot. Now, unfortunately, Brandon Buckingham's response to this drama was to go onto Twitter and basically leak the LinkedIn profile of one of the accusers by the name of Rowan. Now, on February 2nd, which was yesterday, Brandon put out this tweet. For 3 weeks straight, this girl has been publicly claiming that my roommate Turkey Tom had been sexually and physically abusive, non-consensually filmed sexual encounters, encouraged her eating disorder, along with any absurd amount of other blatantly false claims. In her sick attempt to ruin Tom's life, she also brought up my wife and daughter and implied he was a danger to my child. Since she wants to post about my family publicly on Kiwi Farms, here is her public LinkedIn profile. Now under this tweet or text, there is a photo of Rowan. I'm going to blur it because, again, I don't really want to be a part of any of this doxing drama. And even though, Rowan is a terrible person for making up allegations and trying to ruin Tom's life, again, I just really don't want to be a part of that. And I think that the idea of doxing someone's personal or private information, you're starting to get on a very slippery slope when it comes to doxing and how it's justified. Oh, well, you doxed me, so I can dox you now. Or, you talked about my family, so I can now post your family. But yeah, here's the rest of the post. Again, it's going to be censored. As we can see, it says Rowan blank, student at blank, from blank, United States. So he just went full scorched earth mode and posted this girl's, public profile, which, like he said, is public. Now, this is where the question comes in and why I made the original introduction to the video talking about how he's being accused or it's an allegation, because it depends what you guys consider doxing to be. Now, the Oxford Dictionary describes doxing as searching for and publishing private or identifying information on the internet, especially with malicious intent. Now, this part right here, private or identifying information, is where you'll start to get differing of opinions. Of course, private information would be maybe your phone number, maybe your address, but identifying information is, things like your name, what city you're in, what school you went to, right? Truthfully, I'm not a rocket scientist. I'm not the smartest man alive. I'm not a lawyer. I think that by internet standard, doxing is basically if you take an internet personality or whatnot and you look into something that they themselves haven't made public or showed to people, and then you dig into it further to basically share it onto the internet, right? Now, Brandon would also go on to post Turkey Tom's video, again, saying my side, and he would also post this saying, this is her Twitter handle, by the way, and there's a Twitter account which has now been deactivated. Now, the comments under this post went as so. Think Before You Sleep says false allegations of R need to be a criminal offense. I agree with that to an extent. Substance says bro claiming he can barely pick up pillows, but somehow can pick up a phone to dox people. Chronic Sonic says I thought you was dying. Now, most of those comments are referencing this specific moment from Brandon Buckingham, which is probably one of the most serious things he's a part of. Again, I'm happy he's alive. I'm happy he's well. I don't think it's a good look for him to be doxing people, though. But basically, he said, doctors believe I have tuberculosis, septic pneumonia, and or liver failure. Pray for me, guys, right? This was back on November 19th. And basically since then, he hasn't really done much. He hasn't posted many videos besides giving updates on his hospital journey. Now, obviously, people were quick to call that out because, this guy is coming back from heart failure, right? He's coming back from all these horrible things. Godspeed to, freaking Brandon for surviving and getting through all that. I'm happy he's alive. I'm happy he's well. But it is a little interesting that one of the first things he does when returning to the internet is come out and dox this girl. Again, I'm not going to get into the morality of doxing. I think a lot of people can agree, hey, let's not dox. That's kind of a YouTube golden rule is let's not dox people, right? Of course, you could argue this woman's evil. This woman's nasty and vile for making these allegations, attempting to ruin Tom's life. And to an extent, even went on to Kiwi Farms that has also doxed Turkey Tom in the past. It's almost like she knew people would go to that site to find the allegations and then thus find Tom's docs, right? So I'm sure there's a side of both parts you can like try to understand. Again, I'm more on the side of let's not dox people. Now, I decided to go back to Kiwi Farms and check out what context Brandon is referring to when he's talking about like his wife and kids. And the only thing I could find was Sacramento saying, I don't see why Tom would lie about that in reference to Brandon doing substance and drug abuse, saying he really doesn't eat drugs and weed off camera. He told me Brandon was doing whippets and also did drugs whenever he went to Mexico. I don't know exactly when, but before his hospitalization. His wife also called wellness checks to the house multiple times, and I have screenshots of our conversations proving this. Now, I looked through the rest of Sacramento's posts, and I couldn't really find anything about her specifically mentioning Brandon's children or anything. I did see other people like reference Brandon's child and, say they're worried about him and whatnot, but I couldn't find Sacramento saying it. But I could be completely wrong, right? Like Kiwi Farms is kind of confusing in the way that the Sacramento chick literally spammed like dozens of pages in like just a month alone. It's kind of hard to like navigate and keep up with all she's posted. But one thing specifically, though, that she did post was about Nicholas Diorio. Now, Nicholas Diorio claims Turkey Tom's ex attempted to dox an offline person I attended VidCon with in 2025. This was done because she must have known something, and she wanted us to suffer for simply knowing Tom. This worthless bee gets no sympathy from me. And this was posted about an hour before Brandon Buckingham posted her docs. So it caused a lot of people like in the commentary sphere, right? I'm not going to make any accusations or allegations, but it caused people to think like, was this like a coordinated attack? Like were all of Tom's friends going to come out and like put out their posts about Rowan, right, to make it seem like she's deserved of what's coming her way. Again, I'm not going to really get into that. I'm just kind of throwing out ideas and why people think those things. Now, Diorio also ended up posting this to add a little more context to what he meant by Sacramento trying to dox the random person that was a part of his life, including these screenshots. Cheeseboob says, I think the Anon VidCon girl that Sacramento was talking would actually know who Nick Diorio's girlfriend is, but I agree it would be a good way to push Diorio to a breaking point with Tom. I wish Anon girl would come here to spill everything she has too. Sacramento, yeah, I don't know who it is. She does. She told me the girl was apparently a long-term girlfriend. He's known since elementary school. I asked her who she is just now. In this one, Gatorade says, any news on the name of Diorio's girlfriend? Sacramento says, no, VidCon girl hasn't responded. Maybe Tom or Nick got to her and threatened her or something. I wouldn't be surprised. So this one is a little more contextual because it does say any news on the name, right? Like if you just want to add some context and get some like evidence or proof to like back up your claims, again, I don't think the girl's name is like relevant necessarily. Also, after this point, I think it's kind of important to like mention, again, this is all happening on Kiwi Farms. I don't want to sweep for Diorio, but I do kind of understand like his worry for why this really malicious character would be on Kiwi Farms, attempting to find information from people. Again, Rowan here is friends with Clorox Katie, who ended up face doxing and revealing the name and username of the third girl. So clearly these women are not a like good group to want to be around, which I could understand why would worry Diorio getting in contact with his girlfriend. Sacramento then says, update on Tom's VidCon side chick. Katie and I are starting to get sus about outside influence, or she got spooked because we haven't heard from her for a few days since we leaked about Diorio's girlfriend. Now, I haven't directly seen Diorio or any other like large content creator defend Brandon posting this. Again, I could be wrong. I could have just not seen something. They haven't been against it, if that makes sense, right? Like this is kind of going to be the sentiment here of like, I'm not going to feel bad that, someone who lied about grape allegations is being doxxed. I think a lot of people, again, are going to kind of have that sentiment towards this whole thing because, yeah, doxing people is bad, especially innocent people. But on the other hand, Rowan is by no means innocent, right? She tried to go onto Kiwi Farms, a doxing / gossip / snark website that is all about anonymity, but also at the same time, all about doxing, exposing people, trying to be anonymous, trying to spread lies, trying to spread nonsense that was all debunked. And very quickly, Tom was able to prove everything with his just in case folders and whatnot. She should be held accountable. She should be punished. If anything, I think like Brandon or Tom should, legally go after this chick. I'm not sure what they could really do. The legal system's weird like that. but I just wouldn't go the route of doxing people because now it's going to just make Brandon look bad, which I understand his sentiment behind it. It just isn't a great look for him, right? Like for the most part, he's a pretty respected YouTuber. He's just kind of like a guy who does silly videos and whatnot. And again, a lot of people came out in support of him when he was in the hospital and going through something very serious. So they just didn't want or understand why he felt the need to post a girl's LinkedIn profile. Again, a random girl who's not like a celebrity or anything. She did try to ruin Tom's life. Very bad. Either way, I want to know what you guys think down below. I appreciate you. Bye.